What's up, Met fans? Welcome to episode 13 of the Shea Less Podcast. The Mets wrap up a homestand going 7-2. Me and Vin are going to break it down. Let's talk about it. What's up, Met fans? Welcome to episode 13. We are back to break down our most recent homestand. The Mets finished 7-2 on the homestand. Vin, really great showing from the Mets the last couple of weeks, taking care of business versus two of the bottom teams in the league, both the White Sox and the Rockies. What are your thoughts on the homestand?
I think the bigger one was the Dodgers. We could have swept the Dodgers. I mean, listen, you have to. We said it before the Rockies and the White Sox came in. You got to take at least 5 of those 6. And I think the bigger statement was that they should have swept the Dodgers because that extra inning game where we couldn't even hit a sac fly. But listen, 7-2 on the homestand. You can't complain. Like you said, you take care of business against the Rockies. And now going on the road for 4 against the Dodgers and 3 against the Rockies. I'm not worried about Colorado. I think the bigger one, again, is the Dodgers because even this early in the season, I think a split goes a long way for the Mets because it gives them the tiebreaker. Looking down the road, which we all expect the Mets to be in the postseason, we all know the Dodgers aren't going anywhere. So I think if you have a chance to wrap up a tiebreaker with them, whether it's the division standings or the wild card or whatever it may be down the road, I think that's big. So a split, I think for us is a win.
No, I completely agree. And it starts tonight. And we know Paul Blackburn is getting his first start in a long time here tonight for us, followed up by Tyler McGill. So we really need those two guys to come out and pitch well in order for us, like you said, to split or take the series from the Dodgers. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see what those two guys can do to start off the game. I think the bullpen has been really, really good. You know, they continue to pitch well coming out of the bullpen. Both Braziban and Garrett have been phenomenal. And then, of course, Diaz has been able to shut the door consistently for us, you know, in the 9th inning. Unfortunately, we do not like when the Mets go to the West Coast. These 10-10 starts are going to be rough. But you know, I'll probably wind up staying up anyway. Whenever we play the Dodgers, it's a great measuring stick for us to see exactly where we sit in the NL.
Shout out Edwin Diaz, man. I mean, this is the first time since 2022 he has that feel again. That when he comes in, the numbers might not match up. I mean, that year was, you know, outrageous for him with the strikeouts per 9.
Yeah.
But he's given us that feel again. That when he comes in, it's, you know, game over. And last year, you know, it was hit or miss and he was, you know, battling the injury again. But this is the first year off that injury and we see what he's capable of. And having him at the back end of that bullpen, it's got to give confidence to the other guys too, with
100%.
Braziban and Reed Garrett. And, you know, we'll mention it, maybe not if this episode, we'll talk about it a little later on in the season. One or two moves at the deadline could really do. But Diaz has been every bit of the Diaz that we remembered in 2022.
Absolutely. And I just want the record to show, shout out to everybody in the Shea Less group chat on Instagram. I also want the record to show that everybody knows Mike Baerger on Instagram. He just put in the chat that Freddie Freeman is a lock to homer tonight. So when we're talking in the chat, remember who the Dodger fan is in the chat. And remember who's only worried about the fan lineup. Mike Baerger.
And remember how he always says me and Lou are the negative ones?
Yeah.
Now look.
Now look. It's all in the chat. Proof is in the pudding, guys. So, Vin, the next topic I want to jump to, Lindor's milestone. Okay, so Francisco Lindor, the captain, you know, officially, had a huge milestone for the Mets, passing Derek Jeter to become 4th all-time on the home run list for shortstop. So, really cool moment for Francisco and the Mets. You posted about it. We collabed on the post. I don't think anything is going to stop this guy from taking that number 1 spot on the list when it's all said and done. If he continues to stay healthy, knock on wood, this guy will be on the top of that list walking into Cooperstown. So, it's going to be really fun to see. And then also that day, it was also the very first time that we as Met fans got to see our big 3 homered in the same game. Alonso, Lindor, and Soto all went deep on the same game. So hopefully we get to see that a lot more often, you know, this summer.
Real quick on the Lindor thing, because in the Instagram chat, it's still going back and forth. Lou, I need your help. Can you try to pull it up real quick?
The Instagram chat, I have it up.
No, the numbers. I'm going to give you the numbers. I am 99.99% sure Lindor is 5th on the all-time list. I don't know where they pulled this from the other day. That
the only thing, Vin, the only thing that might be mixed about it, I think some websites had A-Rod. I think some websites didn't have A-Rod on that list Because I think some websites had A-Rod as a third baseman.
Which I understand.
Right. I think everybody else is valid that we talked about.
Right, but A-Rod hit those home runs as a shortstop.
Listen, I'm with you, but I think some writers might not hold A-Rod as a shortstop. I don't know.
Well,
Either way, he passed Eric Jeter. So
he did. So
that's the key. That's the key to this conversation. That
here you go, Eddie. I'm acknowledging him. Acknowledge Juan Soto.
Acknowledge him, Vin.
I said it to you before the Rocky series, and I wrote it in our text chat, not in the Instagram, that I was hoping, kind of like the Cespedes trade. That remember he broke out against Colorado. Yep. I was hoping that we saw some good signs with Soto going before the Colorado series, and we talked about it last episode. And I finally feel like we saw a little bit of that swag back with the shuffle, and I forgot who it was against, but he took like a crazy hack on a pitch and fouled it back, and he slammed his bat, he punched his bat, and he kind of stared down the pitcher like, I got you. So it was the first time we really saw Soto, starting to feel himself a little bit. And as Mets fans, that's great to see. That's all we want. Give us what we watched your whole career.
And that's what I've been saying since the very That's what I've been saying since the very beginning. We want to see Soto be himself. Obviously he has the backing. He has the backing of the city behind him, except for some people in our group chat. But we just want Soto to be himself. And obviously, like I said in the last episode, when somebody receives that much money due to a contract, there has to be an adjustment period both on and off the field. Soto is going to be fine. He's going to adjust. And I think, like you said, we're starting to see it. I think as the weather gets warmer, the summer gets going, the team continues to play well overall. He's going to feel at home, and he's going to be just fine. The video that we posted on Instagram yesterday, shout out to my boy Mike, the videographer from the Mets. He runs, does a great job on the Mets Instagram. That the reason why I wanted to post that, it really captured a moment between Soto and the fans. That was right after, that was coming out of the weekend, and then him taking the field for the first time, and him just embracing the fans, in the stands. I believe he does it every game, but my boy Mike really captured it, captured that moment well. So I think it's coming around. Like I said, I think he'll be fine. Will his numbers be what they were last year? No, they're not going to be what they were last year. But you know what? That's perfectly fine. If the team is playing great, he's gelling with the guys in the clubhouse. That's all we can ask for year one, and hopefully
October.
Exactly. And like I said, I continue to say that nobody's going to care about what he did in March, April, and May if he's hitting home runs in October. So,
right.
That's the key. That's what we want to see. Shout out to the chat. We got a bunch of people in the chat in here tonight on Instagram. You guys are awesome. I can't keep up with that chat sometimes. There's too many people in there. It's nonstop. So shout out to you guys in the chat. Vin, in other news this weekend, we also saw that Frankie Montas and Sean Manaea are officially throwing. We know we know Frankie Montas is in the middle of his rehab assignment. So that is great news. We do have some pitching arms on the way back. So who are you more interested in seeing coming back first, Manaea or Frankie Montas?
I'm more excited for Montas because of the pitching lab, the whole thing. And he, I was excited for him before the year. I love Sean Manaea, don't get me wrong. Love what he did for us last year, the way he's a true clubhouse guy. I think I was a little skeptical on bringing Manaea back for the money that we did because, I don't know if he can repeat what he did. I hope he does because I love Sean Manaea. But I think Montas with his stuff and the pitching lab, we see what it's doing for Clay Holmes right now. We saw Manaea last year. We saw Severino last year. So I think just based on stuff-wise, I'm a little more excited for Montas because to this point in the season, the rotation has been great, but we don't have that bona fide ace. And it's a little scary because we saw what happened with Corbin Burns. We all wanted him. He threw a pitch the other night. I don't know if anybody saw it. Trainer came out and he said, my arm is dead. My elbow's dead. He said it's done. So signing a guy like Montas who could still throw into the mid to high 90s, if he could find what we saw in years past, I think that's a big boost for the rotation. So I'm a little more excited for Montas. I do love Manaea though. I am excited for him.
That's our tribal chief. So no, I think all four of us said that in the season preview that we see what Stearns has done. We see what Stearns' track record is over the last couple of years that he's been here. And James hits it on the head every single time. He is not going to overpay for a pitcher, but more importantly, he's not going to sign a starting pitcher to a long-term contract. And the more that we hear about the pitching lab, the more we see that the pitching lab is not only working, but it's extremely effective. The more that I agree with his philosophy. There's no
Right.
reason to pay these starting pitchers for 6, 7, 8 years just to throw some names around, like you said, Corbin Burns, Roki Sasaki, Max Fried. These guys are all getting
Garrett Cole.
Garrett Cole. These guys that are getting these long-term contracts it's more likely for them not to pay off than them paying off, unless you win a ring. Like if you win a ring, then all bets are off. Who cares about the money at that point? It's going to be interesting to see though if the starting pitching market starts to change. If GMs around the league aren't giving starting pitchers those long-term contracts, are agents going to start to say, okay, we'll take the 2 to 3 year guaranteed deal at a higher AAV, and then I'll test the market again? Kind of doesn't make sense because as a starting pitcher, you want the insurance of having that long-term contract. I just don't know if it's going to be available to these guys, especially if GMs start thinking like David Stearns.
Yeah, and I think we spoke about it before the year where baseball is going now. I would almost rather so we saw it at 15, right? We talked about it. With the new generation, we all thought we were going to still be watching some of these guys on the Mets. And there's not one there's one left standing, Zach Wheeler. I don't count DeGrom because of the injury history, and he's still one pitch, and I loved Jake, but he's still one pitch away from being done. 'Cause Wheeler was the one that turned out most consistent. And when we spoke about it before the year, I'd almost rather have the rotation we have now and give me an absolutely lights out bullpen, because when the playoffs come around, these managers cannot wait to pull their starting pitcher.
100%.
They go into the bullpen, they go deep into the bullpen. And that's where this comes up, where I'll just touch on it quickly. We don't have to go in depth. Where if the Red Sox continue to spiral, the big name that I want, and I've wanted him on the Mets for a few years now, go get Aroldis Chapman. We lost the lefties in our bullpen, and I think Aroldis Chapman, where he doesn't have to have the pressure of being the guy in the bullpen, but setting up somebody like Edwin Diaz, I think is an absolutely electric and dynamic combo at the end of a game, especially in the playoffs. When, let's say, we do match up with the Dodgers, you're going to need somebody to go get Otani and Freeman.
Yep.
Those are two monster lefties. Or if we face Philly, it's going to be Schwarber and Harper. Go get Chapman. That's the guy, I think, in my opinion, that boosts us another level.
And like we just spoke about, Chapman's not here. Chapman won't be here long term.
Right.
Chapman's not a guy that's going to be here long term. But it's a move you can make that can put you over the edge when it comes to the playoffs. And I think that's the market that Stearns is going to play in. When the middle of the summer. When the middle of the summer comes, so that's going to be very interesting to see. I just don't like, and I hate to keep talking about this, but it's a topic that we're going to continue to talk about. Like the Dodgers just traded for a big time arm from Cincinnati and gave up nothing.
Right.
Gave up nothing. They got Diaz, right? Alexis Diaz. They got Alexis Diaz from the Reds for nothing. Like, why can't we go make a move like that? I know Stearns loves his prospects, and I really love our farm system. I don't think I ever loved our farm system. Excuse me, I can't speak. Our farm system as much as I do right now, just because how much depth there is from AAA all the way down to Brooklyn. Oh, all the way down to Port St. Lucie.
And the majority of them are starting to swing the bats now.
I know. So listen. I'm always okay to let go of a free agent if it's gonna. Of a prospect if it's gonna help you win now.
Absolutely.
As long as we don't overpay, so it'll be interesting to see. I know.
You want to bring up the one example? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew it was on the tip of your tongue.
But we're in a much different situation now than when we were in 16. I felt like that move in 16 was made in kind of a panic move. I think Stearns isn't making panic moves now. He's making smart strategic moves to get us over the top. So we do all trade for Duran. I mean, I don't know if Minnesota's letting go of Duran. Yes, I would love to have Duran.
Well, is he talking about Duran from Minnesota or Duran from Boston? I think he might mean the one from Boston, Jared Duran.
If we get Jared Duran, I mean, we would have to gut the farm system for Jared Duran.
Listen, there's the bat that we talk about. We continue to talk about him, and in my opinion, it's Lubob. I know. Listen, and I don't care. I know everybody in the chat is gonna Lubob's numbers and this and that. I will take the risk on Luis Robert.
100%.
Seeing what he did a few years ago when that team was on the in the playoffs and how good he can be. I think you put him in a lineup like ours in a playoff race, and You give him protection. I mean, the guy leads the league in steals right now.
Playing with Soto, Lindor, and Alonso.
Right. I think you put somebody as talented like that, as talented as him, in a lineup like ours, I'll take the shot. I have to.
I 100% agree. And just speaking to the chat, if we're hypothetically questioning and inquiring about Jared Duran, questioning and inquiring about Lou Bob is going to cost you a lot less
Absolutely.
than what Jared Duran is going to cost you. And if healthy, I think he's one of the best center fielders, both offensively and defensively in the league. I don't think at this point, I don't think it's going to cost you that much to get a Lou Bob
I don't think so.
because of how poorly he is playing. If he was raking and he was on his way to an All-Star game, yes, their asking price would be a lot higher.
So Sinropa asked, what void do you think we need to fill? What is the missing key?
Hold on one second. Joe, Lou Bob is not the equivalent to Jose Siri. Lou Bob's offense is way better than Jose Siri. The ceiling on Lou Bob is light years better than Jose Siri. What was the question?
I mean, listen, they were talking about, Keith mentioned this when we played the White Sox. They were talking about Lou Bob a few years ago as an elite player in baseball, not just center fielder, an elite player. So I think you take the risk because I look at it like this. Is Lou Bob going to hurt you? And listen, Tyrone Taylor's a nice player, but he came into the year as the fourth outfielder. Is Lou Bob going to kill you? No, I don't think so. And I think the risk reward factor there is you take a chance on a guy like that. And listen, like you said, Lou, is it going to cost you a lot? No. So what's the difference? If he's not performing, you bench him, and he goes in now. Right now on the White Sox, they can't afford to bench me or you.
Right.
If he comes to the Mets and he doesn't perform, well, then he becomes the fourth outfielder, and you're not going to give up a lot for him. So I think the risk reward there with somebody like Lou Bob is worth it. Could play multiple positions in the outfield. He could DH if he's hitting the ball.
If the guys are so worried about taking a risk on Lou Bob, let's look at the track record that that Stearns has had since he's come here. Everybody he signs is a risk. Canning was a risk. Minaya was a risk. Who we just
Montas was a risk.
Thank you. Frankie Montas was a risk. Like all of these guys are resurgence projects. So does he continue the trend? Does he hit another home run with Lou Bob? We get him for the super low. And then the White Sox, maybe the White Sox are going to kick themselves that they let Lou Bob walk out the door for nothing. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think that, yes, Clay Holmes was a risk as well.
Holmes was another one.
So I could see that.
Even Brazaban was a risk.
Yeah.
Brazaban was a high walk guy, and he's been lights out for us.
I know. We get towards the All-Star break into July, at the end of the summer, and that takes us to the All-Star game. Guys, it's very important. Me, Vin, and Brady from Met News, our boy Brady, everybody knows Brady. We are going to be posting the moment that All-Star voting opens. We want to start a movement, guys. We want to get our guys into the All-Star game. Leading the way with Francisco Lindor, then Alonso, then Soto. We got to get these guys into the All-Star game. So definitely check out that post that we're going to be posting. The three of us are going to put the link to the ballot in our bio, so you'll be able to click the bio, take you right to the All-Star ballot. Let's get our guys into the All-Star game.
Especially we want because it's in Atlanta.
Yeah, we want to be well represented down there. And our guys deserve it, man. I mean, Lindor and Alonso are having great first halves of the year. Obviously, Soto is a superstar in his own right. He deserves to be there. What happened?
Senga, Diaz.
Yeah. Well, we don't vote on the pitchers, but, I think those guys are
true.
Yeah, I think those guys are a shoo-in anyway. So definitely keep an eye out for that post. The All-Star voting starts on June 4th at noon. So you'll definitely see the post about that. Yeah, and I just, every year, Vin, we were talking about it the other night. Every year, the host city always goes crazy in the voting and gets their guys in. We got to do that for the Mets. We got to get our guys in there. So we have on.
I don't know who makes it from Atlanta this year. Who are they voting for?
I don't know.
I mean, listen, based on the 7 games he's played, you could say Acuna, but
that's what's going to happen. The entire city of Atlanta is going to vote for Acuna.
Listen, Acuna, I don't mind. I don't mind Acuna being in the All-Star game. The guy's an absolute superstar.
I know. So, but that's what they're going to do. So we have to do our part to make sure we vote to get our guys there. Keep an eye out for that post. So let's switch up the topics a little bit. Everything about what we just spoke about. Talk about the big league team. Let's transfer a little bit to our minor league team. We've been talking the last couple of episodes about who could be that one spark plug we can add to the team to get our lineup going. And I think we can both agree that it's time for Ronny Mauricio to get the call. This guy has
Absolutely.
been absolutely amazing since coming back from his injury. I believe he hit 3 home runs in a week. I know he had a couple stolen bases, hitting over 400. So I think it's time for Mauricio to get the call up. Ben, what do you think?
It's got to be Mauricio. He already spent time up in the majors with us, and he looked like every bit of the spark plug that we need. He has power, he has speed, and I think his versatility with us is a big thing because he can DH, he could play second, he could give McNeil a night off. It gives us something that we don't have right now. Outside of Acuna, who hasn't hit consistently to be in the lineup every day, we don't. I mean, listen, Soto's 7 for 7 or 8 for 8 in steals, but Soto's not going to go out there and steal you 30, 40 bases. Mauricio's electric. He's got big power. And, I compared him when he first came up and we got our real first look at him. He reminds me of our version of an O'Neal Cruz or an Ellie De La Cruz, that tall guy who's got a cannon for an arm and has, lightning speed. So I think he's got to be the guy. And then, later on down the road, if it's Jet or it's Gilbert or Tong or McLean, but I think the first guy that's got to be up is Mauricio, and I don't even think there's a close second.
I said earlier in the season that I don't think Ronny has to come up right away and have a major role on the team. I think he could be that DH for you on a day-to-day basis where he only has to focus on getting his legs underneath him and focusing on his swing late going into the summer. And then he can get a spot start here and there to give guys off in the field. And I think that can help him coming off the major injury. But if he can maybe bat 6th, 7th in this lineup and really lengthen the lineup, we haven't gotten anything from Francisco Alvarez. So, it'll be interesting to see where Mauricio would slide in the lineup. Obviously, 1, 2, 3, 4 is locked. And then maybe even if he fits into that 5, 6 hole, that's where I would like to see him hit.
See, the only thing I disagree with you with is I think Mauricio has to come up and he goes right into the lineup.
No, in the lineup, yeah, but I don't think he has a spot in the field. That's my problem.
I give him second base, and I'll tell you why. The only reason I feel like I'd give him second base was because of what we saw from Lindor last year with Acuna. There's just a different Lindor when it was Acuna at second than compared to McNeil, and we spoke about it in the before the year on our episode, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if there's still underlying problems with Lindor and McNeil. But we saw a different McNeil with Acuna, and McNeil's listen. McNeil's been playing good. I can't take it away from him. Everybody knows how I feel about him. But I think McNeil as the DH. I think McNeil's more of the head case. Where if he could just focus on hitting, I'd like to see Mauricio at second with Lindor at short. Obviously,
if that's the route you would like to go, and that works out perfectly as well. Because then you could platoon when Jesse Winker comes back. You could platoon Winker and McNeil as your spot starts for the DH, and then you have Ronny at second base every day. That works as well. But like the guy said in the chat, say what you want about it. McNeil has hit the ball. It's not like he's not hitting the ball.
No, he is.
He is hitting the ball. So I don't know if you could take that out of the lineup. But like you said, if he's DHing and he's DHing from the left side, it's a good thing. This is a good problem to have, that we have a number of bats that are healthy at the same time. And it's a good problem for Mendoza to have. The question is, how will he navigate it? How is he going to, navigate that lineup on a day-to-day basis? So far, so good. I know he was experimenting a little bit with the top of the lineup, but we really need that productivity after the 5-hole. We just haven't gotten anything. Joe made a good point about Terrence. Terrence has been legit. Terrence has been really, really good on both sides of the plate. I think
can Mauricio play left field? Get Nimmo out of the lineup?
I wish. A lot of people had stuff to say about our Nimmo reel that we posted this week, but call a spade a spade. Call a spade a spade. The guy has not been playing good. Whether it's injury, whether it's him getting older, whether it's him, not
good at baseball.
Oh, we know that. But Brady's in the chat. I'm glad Brady tuned in. Hi, Brady. Brady decided to tune in. So definitely let's get Ronny Mauricio up here. I think that would be the next move for the Mets to do. And then who are we sending down before we move on to the next topic? Who do we send down?
I think it's got to be Acuna.
Acuna gets to send down just because of the bat, right?
Because of how Beatty's been hitting. You can't send down Vientos because he's out of options.
Right.
And who else? There's really nobody else. At a week ago we said Azakar and he's gone.
Yeah.
So that was the guy. So unfortunately, I think it's got to be Acuna because I don't think Acuna gains anything from sitting on the bench at the major league level.
No, I agree.
He's got to go down and play.
Yeah. To comment on what Joe just said, and I know we wanted to touch on this a little bit too before we get into the preview of the weekend series, the weekday series versus the Dodgers. Shout out to Brett Beatty. Brett Beatty has really turned himself around, not only with the bat, but I want to commend him on what he's doing in the field. He
Yeah.
looks like a big league third baseman now. I think who was talking about it? I don't know if it was Keith or Ronnie. I forgot who was talking about it. When a big leaguer starts to make the simple plays look simple, that's when you know they're comfortable. I thought that was a great quote. I forgot who said it, either Ronnie or Keith.
If I had to guess, it would have been Keith, giving
Yeah,
him defensive.
I think so too. But he's really starting to look comfortable at the hot corner. And then I think because he's feeling comfortable now, obviously we see what he's doing with the bat. And momentum, he's worked hard. He had the up and down to the minors and back. So hopefully he's here to stay, and hopefully he can really produce from that third base spot.
I think, we were so excited when Beatty came up and Alvarez and Vientos, because that was the group that we heard about in the minor leagues together. I'm a little more confident that Vientos will find it when the weather gets warmer and everything. And Beatty's looked, since he came up last time, every bit of a major league player. I'm terrified for Alvarez.
I know Alvarez is going to be, like I said, but there's pros and cons about Alvarez, right? Because if you look at the catches around baseball, how many elite catches are there really? 5?
I get that, but off the top of my head, Perez, Raleigh, depending on where he's playing that day.
Will Smith.
Do you still put JT Realmuto in there as?
I feel like he's over there.
I know, based on catchers in baseball, I feel like you got, as much as we hate them, you got to give props to Austin Wells. Austin Wells puts up good numbers as a catcher.
Sean Murphy.
But I get what you're saying. But listen, I'm looking at the numbers now, and somebody I just brought up, Austin Wells, he's only hitting 212, but he's got 9 home runs.
Right.
I don't care. And we said this early on in Alvarez's career. I don't care if you hit 220, 230, 240 as a catcher, but give us 20 to 25 home runs. And that's what Wells is going to do for the Yankees this year. He's got 9 home runs. He's got 32 RBIs. No, I get it. But, do we see, Alvarez has had a decent sample size this year, and he's still got the 1 home run, and he's got 7 RBIs.
No, I know.
That's not good enough.
He's definitely struggling. But I would love to see Terrence more. Give me Terrence on a day-to-day basis. I think he's earned it at this point.
There's no question.
Right.
And I'm trying to see. I mean, we haven't heard about it.
Who?
The minor leagues. Everybody was excited when we drafted Kevin Parada, and that kid fell off a cliff.
Yeah, he's been really bad. Also, I don't think he's. What is he still in Double-A? He's still in Binghamton.
I can't even find his numbers.
Yeah, I think he's in Binghamton still.
And it's a shame, because that was a first round pick in 22. But listen, I just don't know where you draw the line on the Alvarez, experiment, or whatever you want to call it, because like you said, there's two sides of it, because it does seem, and we heard it from Scherzer at the time, it does seem like Alvarez is very good at working a pitching staff. And there's something to be said for that as a catcher, but like we said, 7 RBIs at this point is not going to do it. So
no, it's not going to cut it.
I think it's got to be Terrence. You got to go with Terrence.
And even if you go with Terrence just for the short term, and maybe Alvarez, gets back in the cage, he starts working, and he gets back to where he was. Once again, the positive thing is we're in first place. So these are all, it's not like we're 15 games out and we're struggling and we're trying to find answers. I mean, we're in first place. We just took first again from the Phillies. We talked about Soto starting to hit, with obviously Lindor and Peter having great first halves, and pitching has been lights out. All positive things in terms for Mendoza to play with the lineup and get the right guys in there for the matchups that we have. Vin, we're at the 35-minute mark. So the last topic we're going to talk about tonight, big series here versus the Dodgers. We said that we have McGill and Blackburn on the mound for the first 2 games. Hopefully I'll be very happy with a split. Right after the Dodgers, guess what, guys? We play the White Sox and the Rockies again. So we can really, if we really got hot right now, we can really get a nice cushion on the Phillies. So hopefully we take advantage of the matchups. But what do you want to see from the Mets this week versus the Dodgers?
Like I said, I think if you go into LA after taking 2 out of 3 in Citi Field, I think, split. Give me a split, because we need that. That tiebreaker is big, and I know a lot of people don't talk about it, at this point of the year, but we got in on a tiebreaker last year and went to the NLCS. So I think, it's something that we should be looking at. And if you have a chance to get a tiebreaker against the Dodgers, I don't care. I'll take the split and be on our way. I don't need 3 out of 4 or a sweep or whatever it is. And we're playing. This is the part of the schedule where Philly was able to fatten up on. Philly did what they had to do against this part of the schedule. So, go out and split with the Dodgers. You got to take at least, and I would expect to sweep Colorado again, but you
Right.
got to take at least 2 out of 3 against them. Then you got the Nationals, and I think
Nationals are tough. Nationals are playing good ball.
I know. That's why, you look at teams like that and it's win the series, win the series, win the series. I don't care about the sweeps but against the Dodgers, a split, and I'm happy.
I agree. So, guys, that's going to wrap it up for episode 13 of the Shea Less Podcast. Before we go, while we have everybody in the chat, Vinny and I would like to announce that we are going to be doing a giveaway for a very big milestone on our YouTube page. We need your help to do it. So once we hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, we are going to be giving away 2 tickets to a Met game this season. So what we would like for you to do is share out the YouTube page, ask your friends and family to subscribe to the channel. It is completely free to subscribe and support the channel. And as soon as we hit that 1,000 subscriber mark, we will post about the giveaway, and we will be sending you and a guest to Citi Field to watch our Mets take on a team later in the season. So once again, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Shout out to the chat on Instagram. I'm happy we were able to get that up and running again. And we will see you guys next time from the Shea Less Podcast.
LFGM.